Welcome to Backstory and Beyond. My name is John Daniel. I'm humbled to be your host, but I'm thrilled to be here with Dr. Bri Mohan. Thank you, sir, for coming on again. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, John. You are an
Excellent.
inspiration, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Yes, sir. Dr. Mohan, some of you may remember in our last discussion, is the Dean Emeritus of the School of Social Work at Louisiana State University. But beyond that, this man is a teacher. He is a writer. He's a social work philosopher. And most recently, as he continues to work, he's the author of a new book called Flame Echoes from Kafka's Cave. In this book, through powerful meditations on his part and ruminations on freedom, democracy, identity, and suffering, and the human condition, Dr. Mohan intertwines philosophy, sociology, psychology, contemporary world crisis that illuminate paradoxes of our time, utilizing Plato, Kafka, Nietzsche, Camus, today's digital dystopia, and political extremism. This book reflects on several salient points which we're going to talk to about today. Briefly, the erosion of democracy and the rise of authoritarian power, the violence of inequality, oppression, and structural injustice, the collapse of moral discourse in a hyper digital world, poverty of culture, not the culture of poverty, and social imagination, remaining human amid chaos, and the tension between freedom, which is not free, it requires responsibility and collective survival. These are the points that are part of the essence and DNA of this book. And I'm super happy to be here with him to discuss it. That said, sir, I kick it off and share your thoughts about why you did this. And by the way, you were sick for a while. I'm
Yes,
wondering how that played a role in this book coming through, but I'm going to be quiet and listen to you.
my thank you, John. My body seems to be failing me, but my mind and heart, they are still working fine. And once again, I'm thanking you to invite me to talk about the litany of catastrophe that we confront today as a society and as a human being. Uh, is amazing. Uh, we are living the golden age and passing through a Dickensian era in this age, in this 21st century. When I refer to Dickensian times, I'm bringing here the despair and hope together. And what I did in Flame, that is the title of my book, the flames that have been smoldering and enlightening and disparaging me, they are all reflected in my total opus or over, if you would like. And in this book is not a textbook. It's a book on my life's dedication to reading and writing and reflecting. And you have rightly put me in a very unusual situation to talk about deconstruction of democracy. Implied here is that democracy is confronting uh, serious challenges which may contribute to its demise. In a way, it's already happening, unfortunately. When you see militarized streets in Minneapolis, when you see the vulgarity of war in terms of public statements from a very partisan and divided quarters, you kind of become sick. And I don't like wars, period. And these wars, even when they were necessary in 1999 and 1939, 2026 is not 1939. And anyone who has a sense of history would understand what I'm saying. Somehow or the other, this 6-day war, which Israel launched in 1967 against Egypt, has become a sort of model for the authoritarian tyrants who happen to be the helm of their governments. And we witnessed this reality, gruesome as it is. It began with the destruction of Iraq in George Bush's time. We manufactured desperately blatant lies that Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction, and our General Powell certified to this nonsense at the United Nations, and we lost a war and destroyed one of the oldest cultures on this planet. And it has not recovered, and it will never recover. The same history is repeating today in Middle East, beginning with this 12 or 13 days war in Iran. I want to take you back a little bit in terms of history. What we are told today is that Iran has missiles, and those missiles are threatening Israel, and they are also threatening United States. Only last evening I heard somewhere, probably it was Jim Kimball, who said, we confront the reality of a possible Iranian strike attack in California. California, where I am, it's a beautiful day in Santa Barbara, and this is the most precious and beautiful occasion to talk about this war. I'm not going into the details of the dynamics of this war in terms of what we are confronting, but I do want to talk about democracy, which is the subject of today. Many people might not recall, but I must recall, in 1953, Iran elected Mohammad Mossadegh as their prime minister. He was democratically elected, but as a sensible human being and a true democratically elected person, he nationalized oil. And by nationalizing oil, the Rockefellers of that time found it very threatening, and with the help of M16 and CIA, Mossadegh was assassinated, and they invented the Shah of Iran, that is the crowned Pahlavi, whose son is now very impatient to resume his father's role, and maybe United States would like, because they don't like any elected people. Their leader has to be accepted by United States. That's nonsense. If you're talking about democracy, let the people elect their leader and select their leader, and we should facilitate that process rather than oversee and orchestrate mm, and project our own dreams and delusion. Mossadegh was also assassinated because we wanted a pro-West and anti-Russian regime in Iran. And probably some of the same proclivities are enshrined today, and they are dismantling the whole structure of governance and public service. The idea of public service has completely evaporated. What really is material today is to confront authoritarian hegemonies which have hijacked democracy. And it is a very important day in our life. It is a very important juncture in democracy's life, because what we are finding is not only misleading, is very dangerous, and it is very dubious. I'm taking this opportunity, John, to ask certain very innocent questions. And these innocent questions will be used to formulate a plausible theory of war, which I have named as the obscenity of war. And these innocent questions refer to certain misconceptions and misnomers and guided lies. And I want people to understand these 5 questions which I'm raising very innocently, but very honestly. How can a democracy anoint a mentally sick authoritarian monarch? Our POTUS has become the monarch. They like to call him the king. Number 2, how can such a deranged king be allowed to command the world's most advanced army and the Department of War? I cannot think of any time except the ancient Roman Empire when a psychopathologically diagnosed and declared person, let alone a convicted felon, will be the commander-in-chief of the world's mightiest army on this planet. Third, how is a regime change legitimate when orchestrated by illegitimate powers? I use the word illegitimate because our Congress is basically ostracized and it does not exist. Our Supreme Court has been perniciously divided on ideological lines, which is a farce of democracy. And lastly, when the West is always pillaging, looting, and obliterating the developing nations like Iraq, Venezuela, and now comes Cuba, is it a race war or a delusional stride towards a unipolar world? The idea of a multipolar world has vanished. Now, taking into consideration my situation here, I think Mr. Netanyahu and the son-in-law of Mr. Trump have taken over the reins of power. Sometimes I wonder if Mossad and CIA have joined hands to change regimes beyond Iran. And I want you to understand and emphasize that Mossad's power is invincible. So is CIA's. JFK was assassinated and no one knows about it. And we are a democracy. We still don't know. We will never know. And in this context, I'm reminded the other day, for the last 2 days, sorry, the name of Cuba has come up. Cuba, can you believe? You remember in early 60s, there was a Cuba Missile Crisis, and Khrushchev did a remarkable job to withdraw his anti-ballistic missiles while he was nearly approaching the Third World War. JFK had threatened him, and instead of showing his muscles, his raw power, he withdrew. And I think that was an act of super intelligence and great diplomacy, which has sustained democracy here. In our country, the DNA of our country involves three things: gravity, guns, and greed. If you combine the three, the commoditization of life's basic necessities, to name oil, for example, have become the targets for accusation through militaristic approaches and weapons. And it has become very difficult to think of a future, let alone human survival. When I was referring to Cuba, I was a graduate student at Lucknow University, and I had a little correspond with Lord Burton Russell, and I wrote to him during when this Cuban Missile Crisis was going on, and I asked the philosopher, why cannot in this 20th century, it was 20th century at the time, think a little more rationally and prevent this nonsense of war. And I just wrote it. But after 15 days or something, I still have that letter. Burton Russell wrote to me, and I published that letter in my first book in 1972 in defense of my argument and this is the letter.
Outstanding.
And this is his letter. I have the original in my files. And in this letter, he thanks me to think and join his pacifist movement, which I did. And he says, the catchword here, which I quote often, he said, it is the proclivity. That's my expression. I'm paraphrasing.
Mhm.
It is the habit of it is the habit of the old habits of thought. Yes, that is. These are the old habits of thought which perpetuate this continuous crisis. And to remain to ward off this crisis,
Mhm.
we have to launch an aggressive but pacifist world movement. I'm afraid no one is talking about pacifism these days. Militarism is the new religion. And I was just researching, and I found that my figures may and may not be correct, but this is what I learned. Who who is winning this game? For the last 2 days, there are rumors that Russia is profiting this, and India is buying cheaper oil, and so many other things. But the real winner is, in classic Eisenhower's terminology, it is the military industrial infrastructure, which continues to derail our democracy because the world is more interested in fighting and pugnacity rather than talking and resolving the problem. Before the house is set on fire, let's take some measures to see if we can prevent this catastrophe. And I don't see anyone who's interested in this pacifist approach. And my idea, you see this diagram that I do,
Yes.
and this I've kind of synthesized three elements of the contemporary crisis. Is it is illegitimate war that we are fighting, and our leadership is totally unhinged. And I borrowed this idea, the third idea, from Bernie Sanders. He said, if this war is profiting, it's not profiting American, it is profiting billionaires. The small coterie of billionaires, I believe there are 393 billionaires in US alone. And during the terms of 54th and 57th voters, only billionaires have become richer, fatter. Can you believe the two very powerful real estate agents, Witkoff and Kushner? They think of building a Rivera on the graveyard of Gaza. This is obscene.
Mm-hmm.
This is obscene. And I take the liberty to propound certain notes towards a theory of the obscenity of war. And I have done a lot of research and writing all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And you have so brilliantly summarized the ethos of my books, one of my books, which has echoes from Kafka's cave.
Mm-hmm.
Concept of Kafka's case metaphorically has been morphed into the Kafka's case from Plato's cave. I'm anti-Platonic as a pragmatist and a pacifist. And what I have gone through in my life from my childhood, I came to this country on March 1st, 1975 with $8, 62 publications, 2 shirts, and no warm clothes. And for about 6 months, I was technically homeless. I always thought United States as an idea is perhaps the greatest invention of the Enlightenment and the post-Enlightenment, which should be named as Enlightenment 2, has a responsibility to see that people who come to the United States, they are not terrorists. Our grandparents also came from different corners of the world, and some of them, maybe most of them, have strengthened the pillars of democracy in our country. And I'm not a pillar by any chance, but I've done my best towards a theory of the obscenity of war. The idea of the obscenity of war is borrowed from a quote from one of my favorite philosophers, Herbert Marcuse. And to be honest, this is a book for which I bought from the then came out for $1 in 1976. And I'm quoting from page 8. And I would like to conclude, and I will take questions after quoting a few lines, if you would kindly permit. I quote,
Please, sir.
"The critical analysis of society calls for new categories: moral, political, aesthetic. The category of obscenity will serve as an introduction. Obscenity is not the picture of a naked woman who exposes her pubic hair, but that of a fully clad general who exposes his medals, rewarded in a war of aggression. Obscene is not the ritual of the hippies, but the declaration of a high dignitary of the church that war is necessary for peace." I repeat, obscene is not the ritual of the hippies, but the declaration of a high dignitary of the church that war is necessary for peace. I've emphasized this. My point here is, and no one has no one can match the eloquence of Herbert Marcuse in thinking and critical appraisal of human misery. When he talks about the dignitary of church, can be interpreted today as our POTUS, or Netanyahu, or other supreme leaders like Xi in China, Putin in Moscow. And you see some similarities here between Iran and Ukraine. The facets of destruction are in different theaters, but the proclivities are the same. We are possessive, we are pugnacious, and we have even lost sense of our own existence, because the human condition today has been confounded by AI. whether it is anthropopic or God, whatever name you want to give it. But AI, as it is, and it is growing, and it is a genie which is out of the bottle, will end, might end, I hope, into human destruction and extinction of species. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not always wrong. People who have enlightened me,
Mm-hmm.
from whom I borrow ideas and inspirations, they all agree with
Mm-hmm.
the notion that AI will might annihilate not human suffering, but the race of human sapiens. Is it not strange? Is it not paradoxical? Is it not very disturbing to see that we human ingenuity has surrendered itself at the altar of artificial machines? The basis of artificial machine is that they are better than human beings. Human beings are a flawed species, and since they cannot solve their own problems, or they are incapable of
Mm-hmm.
or they are incompetent, I believe we are all uh, short of what we ought to be as human being in a civilized society. Therefore, our decisions will be taken by AI because they are superior powers. They have superior analytical uh, prowess, if you will. What happened in Venezuela a few weeks ago, people are giving tribute to AI because anthropopic data was used to capture a tyrant there. We captured a tyrant there, and we are applying the same methodology in destroying other countries. To begin with, again, uh, uh, Middle East, and God knows where we are headed to. I know for myself that freedom is a responsibility, and everyone has a freedom, has a responsibility to, number one, be yourself. Number two, be true to the people on whose shoulders you are standing. And third, leave some room for the future of our children and our grandchildren. They, we had our fun. We had our whole life, rightly or wrong, deservedly, undeservedly. I don't know. I know. But give a chance to our grandchildren. They are brighter than us. I hope one of them will be brighter and smarter than AI. And we will devote much of time, our resources, in nurturing this human race rather than destroying it. John, this is what I'm heading towards, formulating the structure of my theory of the obscenity of war. And I hope I will be able to write something more succinctly in a more organized manner, and I will always share with you as I move in this impossible mission. Thank you very much.
Dr. Mohan, I am grateful for your wisdom. And I have three things that result from listening to the pearls of wisdom you just shared. And one is I'm thankful that you and I live in a country where we actually can share dissenting thoughts, at least today, on this hour, in this minute.
We will.
And I appreciate that. And you know, I'm a black descendant of slaves, so I know what it is to have a framework that doesn't necessarily appreciate me, but in spite of and because of, as my parents taught me, we move forward. And so that said, I think it's also important to reflect upon some salient points about what you said. And I have a third thing after I'm done this. What I heard was a discussion of power, privilege, prestige, positioning, and perversion. And they all lead there when we don't have the equity and distribution of resources. But what I also hear is words of action that you have lived, and they all end in VE. And if we look at the Greek root of that, we find that they are words of action, such as forgive, love, believe, and most important, serve. And that's what you have done for your life, sir. You've served, you've served a wonderful and bountiful meal of truth. And in looking at the paradoxes of what happens, and I'm going to change the phrase a little bit, it's a tale of two cities. You talked about nations, okay? You talked about the rich and the poor, but in essence, at the end of the day, we all live in some city, and typically there's a tale of two cities. Where we've come from and lived, it's been North Baton Rouge and the rest of Baton Rouge.
Right.
In Philadelphia, it's North Philly versus Society Hill. All that said, I'm much appreciative of you chronicling these pearls of wisdom in your latest book. But we know your latest book is a sum total of a lot of other things that you've done. And so I, I want to dig a little deeper
Please.
based upon your most recent book into some salient points. And as you described it, one of them is the violence of inequality, oppression, and structural injustice. Now, you've talked about this in your entire presentation, but I wanted to underscore that the violence of inequality, oppression, and structural injustice. The floor is yours, sir.
Before I published this book, Return of the Leviathan,
Yes, sir.
and I took the liberty of using Leviathan, which everyone owes to Thomas Hobbes. Not that I'm Hobbesian. In fact, since you raised this question, I follow Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I'm a Russian in the sense that human beings are essentially good people. It's a good.
Yes, sir.
Essentially, we are good people. You put one small white kid and two small black kids, they are playing. They don't know racism. When people live in caves, there was no racism. So what happened? And to quote Rousseau, almost verbally, the man who plotted off the piece of land and declared it to be mine, was the founder of the civil society. In other words, the moment the invention of property became the hallmark of civilization, all these evils began to sprout. And they are spreading like plague, to the extent that we are almost on the cusp of a third world war. We are, in fact. Coming to your question pointedly, most of the time people say that poverty is caused because conservative, because people are lazy, they don't work, and they are indulged in all sort of violence and crime, and but this is far from the truth. No one has demonstrated more eloquently than Karl Marx why poverty persists. The root of oppression is because of the exploitation and alienation of the poor. Being poor is not a Marxist product. They were poor before Karl Marx, and they continue to be. After the ravages of capitalist avarice, if you will, the roots of poverty have deepened to the extent that we do not know how to eliminate it. We know, but our emphasis is on the billionaires, not on the poor. Poor people are losing their life, their health insurance. The little Obama did, they want to destroy it. And the poverty that we normally speak is, most of the social scientists are guilty of propounding the pernicious theory of culture of poverty. Culture of poverty, in fact, blames the victims. So about 12 years ago, I wrote a book. I have it somewhere. It's somewhere here. And I propounded a theory of the poverty of culture. When I talk about the poverty of culture, I'm basically saying our culture, which is a learned behavior, therefore it can be unlearned, has a good message for both social scientists, policymaker, and people. We were not born poor. We were not born unfree. Coming back to Rousseau, if we can control the processes of civilization in view of the universal sense of equality, we can change our behavior. So that's how I have interpreted. I wrote a whole book in 1991 or 2. No, 2001. Sorry, 2011, published by Paul Raven Macmillan. And my notion is poverty is an artificial issue. By artificial issue, I mean to say it's not poverty is not an economic issue. Poverty is a political issue. And until and unless we recognize this reality and regenerate the politics of life, love, rejuvenation, reconstruction, re-enlightenment, we will always be victims of our old habits of thoughts, as Button wrote to me. John, did I answer your question?
Indeed, you did, sir. And I'm delighted that you went so deep with it. The next question I have has to do with discourse. In part, technology has made that challenging, but I'd like to know more about what you've said is a collapse of moral discourse in a hyper digital and environment. I think that our ability to communicate with each other in a civil way is very important, but take the floor, sir, it's yours.
This is probably one of the most important problems that we as a civilization confront today. As you have noted, I've always taught there's nothing I can know better than reading, writing, reflecting, and teaching. And when I used to go, I retired about 13 years ago. And whenever I went to my class, I took full time, 3 hours to lecture. I never repeated a single lecture. I always prepared and enjoyed. And believe me, I mean no disrespect to anyone. I don't miss my colleagues, but I miss my students. I miss my students. And most of my students recognize me. In fact, one of my best books, which I call my best book, I dedicated to my students. So there is a symbiosis between a student and a teacher. And within my humble limitations, I try to live through this. And I'm very pleased that to some extent, I've been I've been I've achieved some success because I'm known to my students, and many students uh, whose names I can hardly remember. They write to me, and only a few months ago, I left LSU about 13, 14 years ago, but one of the classes I used to teach, social policy, those students, that class and their professor, they invited me, and that was my last Zoom meeting with the whole class, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I told them, I miss you guys. If I were teaching, I would have never had a cancer surgery a year ago. I've survived, and I will continue to think and teach. It has been my inspiration. There is no other profession which I would choose than teaching. And
Just a
teaching,
quick reflection, Doc. I had the
teaching,
privilege,
teaching is very liberating. Go ahead.
absolutely. I had the privilege of being in the last 3 or 4 months, a class that you were sharing thoughts with, your
Oh
wisdom
yeah,
at
yeah.
LSU,
I forgot, John.
and
Yeah,
social
you,
work. And
wonderful. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sitting here, and these are very important points that I took away. These are takeaway points. All of these students and the instructor, who I happen to think is a dean too, I may be wrong, but I think the key is all of them felt and understood the depth and breadth of your knowledge, but they also felt a camaraderie. I think you called it symbiosis a moment ago. But I think they felt like you were listening to them.
I,
You were learning from them. And you were having, these are simple words, you were having a conversation with them and not lecturing to them. I think that's a very important characteristic for any teacher worth his or her salt, that they want the student to trust them to have a conversation. And I think that also relates to good moral discourse. And I'll
Okay.
let you take it from there, sir.
John, can you read this?
I can,
Like, like
it's
dedication.
okay. I can't read it, sir, because it's out of the camera. But you go ahead and read it. You read it.
Uh, this is one of my best books, as a favorite books.
Okay.
And I dedicate it for my students who helped me learn the meaning of discourse.
I love it. I love it.
And this is an epitaph, and I have lived through. And the question that you had asked me about discourse, I did not answer it completely.
Mhm.
Uh, the- I was trying to give you a sense that going to class was was a means of livelihood too. Sure, I couldn't have paid my bills without my salary. I still depend heavily on my modest pension.
They didn't pay you enough, sir.
So the question is today going to class as a didactic process in a dialogical manner has vanished.
Mm,
People they zoom they go on uh, MSW, MDs, even law degree. You can get those degrees online. There's no need to go to a class.
right.
Also, you may have noticed this. You sit amongst 10 people, 11 people, more than half of them, especially they are young, they are talking to somebody on their phone rather than what you want to talk to you.
Right.
Somebody, somebody affectionately scolded me that I don't speak whenever there is a social gathering. I, I very quietly responded. I said, I need to talk. Who do I talk? I don't talk football. I don't talk Wall Street stocks. I want to talk things which are human, which I share, things that relate to the values that I I imbibe and impart. And if they don't want to listen to me, why would I interfere in their emails and um, in their eye chats or whatever they do in separate from the group? So
Uh,
I told them I'm I'm reacting to their response by remaining quiet.
I get it, Doc. I really do. Even at dinner tables today, with family around the table, somebody has a phone in their hand. Now, that's not at my house, but it's not the appropriate thing to do. You can't communicate that way. But look, we know there's so much more we can delve into here, but I want to conclude.
Please,
There's lots more that I want to do, and we'll continue this series, if you will, sir.
absolutely.
But I want to play a word association game with you if I can. Is that all right? Okay, real simple, real simple. And one word, two words, a sentence, whatever you want to respond to. First word, sir. Purpose.
Purpose. Uh, John, you're gonna kill me today. Uh, But purpose can be very subjective and very objective. But is I see purpose in doing something which is nice for others. The subtitle of my book being for others. I borrowed this expression, being for others, from Jean-Paul Sartre, who's my intellectual philosopher. And it makes me happier to find a purpose in doing anything. Even if I'm walking alone by the side of an ocean or river or in a forest or whatever. Thank God I live in Santa Barbara and this place is full of natural beauty. It's a paradise on earth.
Mm-hmm.
So whichever direction I see nothing but beauty.
I love it. I love it.
What Keats said, what also in Sanskrit, in Vedas, they said, Satyam Shivam Sundaram.
Okay.
Keats said it, truth is beauty, beauty is truth.
I love
And
it. I love it.
so, so my purpose is to find some meaning, which is inspiring, liberating, creative, as against the nihilism of life, which plagues our civil society and our own bizarre thinking. Uh, and unless you find beauty in the smile of a infant, you cannot see the beauty of a rising sun or a setting sun either.
Yes, sir. So underscore truth and beauty. I love it. Next question or word. Calling.
Calling, yeah, you have to reckon with your calling. Many people say, I will give you a perfect example. Many people say, you write so much, you are all the time writing, it is your hobby. I tell them, it's not my hobby, it's my calling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's what I do. I get
Yeah,
it.
I
I get it.
repeatedly, they don't understand. I said,
Yeah.
it is not my hobby, mind you.
Yeah.
It's
And
not my hobby. I don't play chess or cricket or hockey or watch football as part of my hobby.
hey, Doc, earlier you said you read, you write, and you reflect. Woo!
And uh, uh, and that's my calling.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Sir, you've been talking about service the entire time. So you've articulated that. But here's my last one. Do you think that you've reached your peak human potential?
No, I'm inherently a very unhappy man in the sense that I'm nowhere close to where I wanted to be. My life is basically a Sisyphean ordeal. I try to reach and fall down and rise again like a phoenix, but that is challenging. And it's not that I have not been able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. That's not important. The important thing is I'm still very concerned, very motivated, very energetic to reach what the purpose of life is. I tell my grandchildren, I have three grandchildren, John. I tell my children, I want you to be very proud of your grandparents. And I will leave nothing except a few words, a few writings, and that's my legacy. And one day, I hope you will understand what I was beseeching you.
I love it, sir. That's a wrap. That for today, we just
Thank you.
wrapped up. And thank you, thank you, thank you.